I wanted to show you an example of some in-text citations that I use, and then my tools that I use to take notes. Some people might use like these tabbies. You can kind of mark things in the books that you're reading. I don't like these, so I'm gonna get rid of these. Some people like to use highlighters. I would highly suggest not to use highlighters. So I would take your highlighter and throw it away. It's just too blunt of an instrument. It doesn't afford you the kind of more nuance of a writing utensil. I like these like just a mechanical pencil, and you're gonna see why when I look at this. So just to review, we're doing 4 things when we're taking notes, but for me, I could just boil it down to one thing, which is finding what is cool and exciting or interesting and noting that. I'm gonna take notes in a small notebook as well. So as I'm reading, if things end up being really interesting, it's like a podcast that I'm listening to, I'm gonna stop and take notes on what those basically those quotes are, in addition to writing in the text that I'm reading. So I chose one of my favorite books from 2 years ago. I'm still revisiting, How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy. And I just wanted to give a sense of the kinds of markings that I might use in a book like this. And this is from a chapter on exercising attention. This is cool, I didn't even notice this before. So let's say I really like this, which I do. In Zen, they say, if something is boring after 2 minutes, try it for 4. If it is still boring, then 8, then 16, then 32. Eventually, one discovers that it's not boring at all. This could be with reading. Notes, question mark. So I like this passage. I'm making a note to myself of how it connects, which then I can transfer over to a smaller book. So you notice that I actually don't have very much writing in here. It's all in the margins, because in this book I don't want to kind of gum up the pages too much. I kind of want to be able to revisit it. But now here we're getting some more markings here. This is a new section that I'm using. So before that, and in the new section, I'm putting a box around I and thou, because it's kind of giving me a sense of what's coming. So I'm kind of organizing how this book is structured. Then I'm noticing how it's structured based on these it's almost headings for myself with the boxes. Also circling kind of key ideas that I think are really good. It should be enjoyable, funded by curiosity, fueled by curiosity. Something about transcending the self I found interesting. I'm labeling this as what I, thou actually is. More notes on what I found is interesting, and then we're going to pick up a little bit. The state of encounter, ongoing state of encounter, I really like. I will dog ear pages that seem like are significant or that I want to come back to. And this got a double underline, and it's also, I'm noticing the end of a section before page break. So this whole paragraph is going to be important to come back to. It says, what I've described so far could be thought of as a training apparatuses for the attention. By inviting us to perceive at different scales and tempos than we're used to, they teach us not only how to sustain attention, but how to move it back and forth between different registers. As always, this is enjoyable in and of itself, but if we allow that what we see forms the basis of how we can act, then the importance of directing our attention becomes all too clear. I love this particularly because one of the things we're doing when we're taking reading notes is trying to attend to the text in different ways. There's a zooming in and a zooming out. So I might see kind of what else is in here. I'm going to list this is a 1, 2, 3. I'm listing key ideas, things that I found interesting that got a or an exclamation point as being awesome. I use squiggly underlines as being I'm not sure. So the strain of attention, I don't know about that word. It's kind of like I'm not sure. This one, I'm making a note at the top of the page of how this connects to a project that I'm working on. Key quotes again. Notice I'm just very intentionally, what I'm underlining is not very many things, and so that I can kind of focus my attention on this. And now as this chapter is picking up, there is I'm getting some other symbols like a money symbol and a star, things that how they're related to me. So all of this is my activity of finding what's important, marking it down, posing questions around what those things are, so that when I come back to it, I can get something more out of it. I'm also noticing that, like a lot of writers, she's packing in some of her best material at the end of sections. So I would want to go back and be able to revisit this. So that's just an example of a chapter that, you know, is about 25 pages long. Looks like about 30 pages long. And the goal for me as a reader is to, in this 30 pages, find what's most important for me and how it might be important by making notes in the margins of which words and how those words come up. I hope that was helpful. If you find this helpful and you want to see more, why don't you go ahead and subscribe